Now that we've had the opportunity to see how things can get passed on from parents to offspring, we're going to look at multiple generations and what are called pedigrees. So here are some of the symbols for a pedigree chart. Males are squares all the way around here. Females are circles. And you can see if somebody has a carrier of some disease, and usually we're looking at pedigrees to see diseases down the road, they'll be shaded in like this over here. If somebody is passed on or deceased, then they have a line crossing them out. Couples that are mating are joined by a horizontal line. If they're divorced or separated but have already mated, then you usually see slashes through there to symbolize the breakup. Siblings are connected with this top point right here, this way. And then if they're identical twins, they're also connected with a horizontal line. That horizontal line is not there to show that the twins have mated, but to show that they are in fact identical, and so they're connected in that triangle there. So here's our this would be for an autosomal recessive disease or trait, and what we're going to try to do is figure out what the genotypes are for them, because we know what the phenotypes are. The black is recessive, so I'll just put little r. We know that's that with anyone's with the black must be little r recessive. And then we have to try to figure out what are the other ones in the couple. So for instance, over here we know that with this mating couple, we know that since there is a homozygous recessive parent here, that any of the offspring must have at least one little r. And since they are expressing the dominant trait, they must be heterozygous. We do not know for sure what sometimes we can't know for sure if things are homozygous or heterozygous, but we try to put it together as best we can. Now the fact that one of these offspring right here is homozygous recessive, little r, what that tells us is that this parent must have at least one recessive gene, so that the recessives from each can get passed on to this offspring right here. If we move to the other side here, we can see that all three offspring from here are dominant, expressing the dominant trait. We know that they must have gotten at least one little r from that parent, so they're all going to be heterozygous. We don't know for sure what this one is. However, if we remember back to our other Punnett squares, we'd know that there'd be about a 50-50 shot that any of these three offspring would be recessive if this parent were heterozygous. So although we don't know for sure that they're homozygous dominant, we can kind of guess that. It's that second letter we're just not 100% sure about. Over here, as we continue down the chain, this offspring must have gotten recessive from that parent, so it will be heterozygous as well. And as we look over here, we know that there's two homozygous parents, or heterozygous parents here. We don't know for sure what the offspring are going to be, because they could be homozygous or heterozygous. So if we were going to put some question marks in, we're not sure about this one, and we're not sure about these two, but we can figure out all the other ones in the pedigree. Now we have a pedigree for color blindness. Now remember, this is carried on the X chromosome. So if we have a male, they have the color blindness gene on the X chromosome and a Y chromosome as well. So we can go through here and we can figure out what all the males are just based on the phenotypes. So let's go ahead and draw all the males in here. We know that this must be X big C, Y, X big C, Y, X little c, Y, and this is X little c, Y, X big C, Y, X little c, Y, X big C, Y, X big C, Y, and X little c, Y. Okay, so we can get the males straight away just from their phenotypes. If we have a female that is colorblind, we can also get her genotype right away. This one has to be both little c's, and we can go from there. Now, as we start to look at the offspring of this first generation, we got 2 females that are there. We know those females got a non-colorblind gene from the male, and because the mother is homozygous, we know they have a colorblind gene from the mother as well. So we have a big C and a little c. A big C and a little c. Okay, so moving on from there, if we look at our first side family over here, we can see that the males that are on the bottom here got their Y chromosome from dad. So the fact that one's colorblind and one's not means that the mother must have both of those genes there, the colorblind one and the little c. And over here, we know the father is passing on a colorblind gene to the female, so she must be heterozygous. This one coming from dad, this one coming from mom. Moving on to our next generation over here, our next little subfamily. We know that dad's passing on a normal gene here, and so we don't know for sure what mom is passing on. So that's one we're uncertain about, because they could be getting the colorblind gene or the non-colorblind gene from mom. Over here, in the next group of families, we know that each of the females has a colorblind gene from dad, which means they must have a non-colorblind gene from mom. We don't know for sure what the other gene or allele for mom is, but given the fact we don't have a 50-50 split down here, we might guess that it's another big C as well. And our last set of family over here, once again we know that this female is not colorblind, so they have a big C. However, that could have come from dad over here, so we don't know which gene got passed on from mom, so that's another one we're uncertain about. So as you look at the pedigree, you can see we can figure out a lot of the different things that are going on there, but sometimes we can't be 100% sure what the offspring is like, and sometimes we don't even have a clue. Like in this case, we've got a good hunch there what's going on, but we don't in the other case. So